Welcome to the Friends of Fantasy Benefits Baseball Podcast. I am Justin Mason, lead fantasy writer and analyst at friendsoffantasybenefits.com. Joining me on this episode, as he always does, is Dave McDonald. Dave, we're back for a second week in a row.
Holy shit. I can't believe it. I thought you might have, I didn't hear from you earlier. I wasn't sure if it was going to happen. I was starting to have doubts, but here we are.
I was ready. It's just been kind of I'm going camping this weekend, so I had to go buy everything for our camping trip, which just took the whole fucking day. But I was ready. I was ready to record. We got a ton to talk about. And of course, I needed to talk to somebody because I have not talked to anybody in front of a microphone since my Giants traded for Rafael Devers. We're going to get to that and a ton more on this episode. But first, remind everybody where you can reach on social media. Dave can be reached at RunDMCD.
Add that D.
There you go. And you can find me on all social media platforms at Justin Mason FWFB. Read all my work over on Fangraphs, Fantasy Pros, and hear me on the Sleeper and the Bus podcast, as well as the Friends of Fantasy Benefits podcast. You can hear Dave on this podcast and sometimes High Stakes Heat.
I mean, not unless it's happening without me. I don't know.
All right. Well, at least we're back and rolling. Maybe that will spur Jake to get rolling back into it as well. But until then, you got
on that one.
Yeah, you can hear Dave's dulcet tones on the Friends of Fantasy Benefits podcast. Let's talk Rafael Devers because that came out of nowhere. You know what?
Yeah.
My wife, she didn't get me a ton for Father's Day, but the Boston Red Sox sure did. They trade Rafael Devers to my Giants for Kyle Harrison, Jordan Hicks, and two prospects, including James Tibbs, who was the first round selection of the Giants last year. Dave, when you saw this, what did you think?
I said my buddy Justin's gonna be pretty pleased. I think.
Yeah.
It literally, like you said, it came out of nowhere. And this was on Sunday, right?
Yeah, it was yesterday evening.
Yeah,
literally 5 minutes before Kyle Harrison was set to take the mound against the Dodgers, the news broke.
Yeah, and I had just kind of heard. I think I saw on Twitter that Harrison wasn't pitching that day, and I was like, "What the fuck? What's going on?" I didn't have him, but I was just like, it was random. And, trying to do fab and everything. And sure enough, blockbuster trade. It's probably not a complete shock just because I think they were kind of trying to keep it under wraps that he still wasn't happy. The whole thing with him wanting to play third base and they wanted to DH him or use him at first. And, it was a whole thing. And clearly he was unhappy. And I think they tried to play it off, but clearly it didn't go that way. And I think Boston's a little hamstrung for money. I think they're like, we need to move this contract if we want to do anything else with this team. I don't think they got enough for him, but I think the fact that San Fran's paying the whole freight is a big market mover for them with this trade.
Yeah, it's really interesting because I think a lot of people think of Boston as a major market team, and they are a major market team, right? This is not an organization that needs to worry about money. I did see something that was really interesting that somebody was talking about, that the owner of the Boston Red Sox is also the owner of the Liverpool football club, the soccer club, for Americans who don't know what the football club means. And they just dealt out two of the largest ever contracts in sports history, which means that maybe they don't have the money that they normally would because the ownership group is going to probably hamstring the Red Sox in order to fund the Liverpool soccer club. So I don't know how true that is or how much that calculus goes into it, but definitely makes sense when you're considering, Bregman's probably going to opt out after this year. You just traded your biggest contract. You're also losing two other big contracts in Walker Buehler and Lucas Giolito at the end of this year. They may just go full youth movement here.
Yeah, it kind of looks that way. I mean, they brought up Roman Anthony and Marcelo Meyer. Christian Campbell's already up. It definitely seems like they're gonna kind of live or die with their young players. So, I just hope for their sake that I don't know anything about the 2 minor leaguers that they got in the deal. I mean, those are your prospects, so I don't know if you know something about them, but
yeah, I mean, James Tibbs. Go ahead. What were you saying?
I was just saying, I don't think they were I don't think they were really big, pieces, but
yeah, no, I mean, Tibbs was their first round pick, I think 13th or 14th overall last year, but like he doesn't profile 13th overall pick, out of Florida State, so he's kind of an advanced college bat. But he doesn't like profile to be a star. He profiles to be like a good major league regular. You kind of look at his prospect reports and you go, okay, he's going to be a guy who can make decent contact, but he doesn't have major power. This is right here, Chad over in the chat. He's a lefty Ryan Mountcastle. Like that's kind of what he projects out to be. So like not a guy that you're worried about trading away for a stud, right? Bayo is a 20-year-old in the complex leagues. I don't even think he was in the top 20 of the Giants farm, system. He's having a really, really good year in the complex leagues, 18 innings, 28 strikeouts in those 18 innings, no homers given up, is only allowed 3 walks. Like that's an interesting arm, but he's 20 years old in a really, really low, league.
Yeah,
so
that's hard to judge. Yeah.
I mean, I think the big get for Boston is one, they unload all that money. They unload a player who doesn't necessarily fit into what they want to do. I think a lot of the talk about Devers not wanting to be there is less important than the organization didn't want him there, right? He wasn't going to do what the organization wanted him to do while they were paying him $300 million. So, like, that wasn't going to work for them. And I get that. I do. I think they kind of were shitty about the way they handled all of it. But I also think he probably handled it pretty shitty too. So, at the end of the day, like, their loss is the Giants' gain. I love it for my team. Maybe it doesn't age real well, and we start getting into like the mid 30s of his career, and we're paying him $29 million a year. Like that may hurt a little bit, but whatever. If you can get a championship out of that in the meantime, you take that all day, to the bank.
You got to go for it when you can. I mean, you're not going to have that window open all the time. And my biggest concern is just with the shoulder. Like, I feel like at some point he's going to need to get surgery on that thing. But, I mean, he started off horrifically this year, but then, he's really gotten into a groove and caught fire in the last month or so. So, as long as he can hold up, I just feel like at some point, over the next year or two, he's probably going to need surgery, I would guess. But how long do you guys have him for? What's the contract? What's the rest of his contract for?
He's through, I think, 33.
Oh damn!
So,
okay,
it's a long deal. Like it,
like
he just signed that extension last year, right? So he's 28. Yeah, they got him through 2033. There's deferrals to make it a little bit more affordable year to year, but the Giants have such a hard time signing free agent hitters. We saw it with Adames, right? They had to go over everybody else's head in order to get Adames to sign there because hitters don't want to come to San Francisco. It's too tough of a park to hit in. And so, to get a guy that, to get a guy like Devers, that he's going to hit bombs wherever he goes. You look at his X home runs, it's actually higher in San Francisco than what's been for the season. So, I'm not super worried about him. This is like when, Crush Davis got traded from Milwaukee to Oakland. Everybody's like, oh no, he's going to lose all his power in Oakland. It's like, no, dude, that guy hits bombs anywhere. Devers is going to hit bombs in San Francisco. And this will be the best power bat that they've had pretty much since Barry retired. So I'll take that all day long.
Yeah, we'll see. I'm a little skeptical that the power and the average are both going to be as good in San Fran as they were in Boston. And it could be. I get that Boston's better for right-handed power, especially right-handed average, because a lot of balls hitting off the green monster. But I know Devers likes to hit the I think what's his oppo percentage? Let's see. He's only a 30% pull hitter. Like he hits a lot opposite field. So I feel like he used the Green Monster a fair amount for his high average. So the average might come down. I don't think his power is going to go up in San Fran. We'll see, though.
I don't think it's going to go up in San Francisco either. But I do think that he's just their best power bat they have in that lineup now.
Yeah.
He just made their lineup that much better.
No, for sure. Yeah, I mean, it's certainly not a negative. Now, the main question is, do you think he's going to insist on playing third base there, or is he going to be their DH?
The reports are that he's okay playing first. Which is surprise, yeah, because the Giants need a first baseman right now, and he wasn't willing to do it in Boston because they didn't like the way that they handled him. But the reports are that he's probably going to DH while he works out at first and kind of learns the position. But honestly, to me, like, just keep him at DH. You've got Bryce Eldridge in AAA, and he's freaking mashing right now, and he's a first baseman. So, like, you know, just keep Devers where he's become comfortable as the DH, you know, guy, especially with his injury history recently. I don't want him on the field. I just want him hitting, you know. And so, you know, if he wants to play first and they're going to put him at first, fine, whatever. But
I know you don't want him on the field, but what he wanted was a big deal. So that's why I was curious whether, you know, he was going to get what he wanted, which is what I thought. Was playing.
They're not going to move They're not going to move Chapman off of third. Like Chapman's a platinum.
Sorry. I meant like, well, yeah, that's true. Long term, yeah. Well, I have heard some people talking about Chapman getting traded too. So I don't know if you've heard anything about that.
I have not heard anything about that. I would be shocked if Chapman got traded. To be quite honest, they just signed him to an extension as well. It runs through 2030. I don't think you're trading Chapman, and I can't imagine they would. So, I think Chapman, once he comes back, that lineup once Chapman comes back, I think that just San Francisco lineup becomes that much more dangerous. And we're talking about a team that has been, you know, kind of hovering around first in that division. They're right behind the Dodgers, 2 games back right now, in spite of the fact that their offense has not been top 20 in any category this year. You know, they had a piece like Devers, and this is a team that can go a long way. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see
kind of how guys fit in there, because, you know, Dominic Smith and Casey Schmidt were playing every day and actually were hitting really well recently. So I don't know how everyone's going to fit in, but it'll be interesting to see their lineups moving forward.
For right now, I think Schmidt and Wilmer Flores will kind of man third base. Dom Smith will continue to man first until Devers is ready to play there. Because, I mean, Chapman's going to be out for another 3 to 4 weeks.
Yeah, so, it sounds like it's
with a wrist issue.
Yeah.
So I think for right now, like, you know, you kind of make it work, you know, platoon those guys around a little bit. But, you know, once Devers is completely locked in at first base, if that is where he's going to play, and once Chapman's back, like, you know, I love Dom Smith, but that guy can kick rocks.
I know.
So, or he can be a DH, right?
Tongue in cheek, you know. I know he was hitting really well recently, and I was considering picking him up, and then I was like, well, with the Devers thing, you know, we were all talking on our text, and we're like, okay, implications. What do we got going on? Like, who's gaining playing time in Boston? Who's losing playing time in San Fran? You know, is Kyle Harrison going to get a spot in the rotation? What's going to happen? So we were trying to figure this out in like the 2 hours that happened before Fab was due. So did our best we could.
Well, let's talk about the Boston side of things, because Kyle Harrison is kind of the big piece going back. He was sent down to the minor leagues. He'll probably be there until they have some sort of natural opening. But hey, luckily from them, they have a bunch of guys who could get hurt between now and then, as they have kind of a riskier rotation. Begin with Lucas Giolito, Walker Buehler, Brian Bayo, Hunter Dobbins, and Garrett Crochet. You like Kyle Harrison more than me. So talk about your thoughts about Kyle Harrison going to Boston.
Well, so I hated Kyle Harrison before this year, because I saw a guy with a monster walk rate, and he didn't have, you know, he kind of like he's sort of similar to Misirowski, where he doesn't have the control, but, you know, he had good stuff. But Misirowski also throws 98 or something. And now Kyle Harrison does, like, he added 2 miles an hour coming into this year, where he used to throw 92.5, and now he throws 95. Now, granted, he throws his fastball a lot, but we see that a lot especially with young pitchers. They don't trust their off-speed stuff right away. Usually, you see their rookie fastball percentage is usually the highest fastball percentage that they have in their career. So he's throwing it 90 or 65% of the time right now. I expect that to come down in the future. He's got a good curveball and a good changeup too. He doesn't throw the changeup that much though. He only throws it 10% of the time. So I think if he starts to throw that more, I just think he needs more time to kind of develop, but he already looks pretty solid. Like, he's a guy that I would want to have on my fantasy teams right now. Like, even in Boston, I think like it's probably better for him than San Fran, just because of the fact that that they're going to give him, they should give him that opportunity. I mean, I'm not a Dobbins guy, but with Verlander coming back, it seemed like they were going to send him down to the minors if they didn't trade him. He seemed like the odd man out. Now, granted, Roupp just got his ass kicked right before that, so it's possible they could have gone that route too, but it seemed like Harrison was the odd man out. But I don't know. I just I feel like he's developing, and he's got the velo, and he's got 3 pitches. He just needs to throw the changeup more and the fastball less, and I think they can have something with him. Now, I'm not saying it's a good enough return for Devers, but tell me about why you don't like him now still.
I think he's a reliever long term, unless he develops some real secondaries that he can use. The reason you mentioned, right? He just throws the fastball a ton. So the fastball's good, but the rest of his pitches suck. I mean, that's really what it comes down to. I wish there was more to it than that. He's just not very good with those secondaries. And Uncle Ted spamming the chat a little bit here, but he's right. He's got, no real pitch for lefties. Like, it's like, this is a guy who I think could be a dominant reliever. And I do think that the added velocity, if he can keep it, and we have seen guys like recently, talk about like Matthew Liberatore, who like showed this improved velocity, and then all of a sudden it disappears mid-season. But if Kyle Harris could keep this velocity, I think he could be a dominant reliever, which would be great. Like, even a multi-inning guy, like a Will Vest type of dude, right? But until he shows he's got secondaries that he can rely upon, because that changeup like has a little bit of promise, but he throws it 10% of the time. Like, that isn't enough when you're throwing your fastball 60% of the time.
But there's a lot of rookies that come up and throw their fastball 60+%, and then it's down under 50% after that.
So I will say this. I think Andrew Bailey, who is the Red Sox pitching coach, is the best pitching coach in baseball. So, like, getting him to Boston, and I wonder how much Andrew Bailey was a part of this trade, like going like, hey, like, I like this guy, go get him. I could see some development down the road for a guy like Kyle Harrison. I think this year, there's not going to be much, right? Like, you're halfway through a season, you haven't had an offseason to work with a guy or have guy work on things. He's going to spend a lot of time in Pawtucket. But I think Harrison could be interesting for next year. He's definitely a guy I'm going to be watching coming into spring training to see, like, hey, is he throwing some new pitches? Is he throwing that changeup or that curveball more? Is he getting more movement on that breaker? Like, that could be more interesting to me, but I got to see it first, because right now for me, Kyle Harrison is at best like a number 4 starter and more likely than not a reliever.
So the other thing I was just looking at, because I didn't have it on me at the time, but in his last start, Kyle Harrison threw the fastball 55% of the time, changeup 24% of the time, and slurve 21% of the time, and he had a 31% whiff rate on his curve. So I think he's slowly starting to incorporate those more and more into his arsenal. It's just kind of like what I've been saying about Cade Horton too. Like, I've been waiting for him to throw. His changeup is phenomenal. He just doesn't throw it enough. And yeah, I think that's a good point about, the pitching coaches in Boston. And it seems like every organization kind of has pitches that they like to try to incorporate for all of their starters. And I want to say, do all of Boston's starters have cutters, I want to say?
Most of them do, yeah.
I think they all do. I think they all have cutters. And so, if you have a whole pitching staff, oh no, it looks like Giolito does not, but it looks like everybody else does. And if you've got a whole rotation of guys, what are the odds that maybe someone works with Kyle Harrison on developing a cutter, which could be a pretty big thing for him. So I'm still in on him for this year, but I agree with you that I think he's especially interesting for next year.
Yeah. Let's move away from my favorite team since we spent so much time on them to start the pod. Let's get to my least favorite team, Shohei Ohtani. He's back to pitching. Are you excited by this at all for fantasy purposes?
No, I don't think he's going to have much value at all this year in terms of being a pitcher. I don't think if you're in a league where you have to choose if using Ohtani in a given week as a pitcher or a hitter, I don't think there's going to be a single week that you use him as a pitcher.
Yeah.
Highly doubtful. I don't know that he's ever going to be an effective starter again, honestly. And I don't know that they should be trying for him to. But, if that's what he wants to do, who's going to tell him no?
Yeah, I mean, I'd love to see Ohtani be an effective pitcher this year. I just don't think it's going to happen. I think that they're going to be really, really careful with him. I think they're going to kind of let him be an opener, kind of get his arm up and going. And this is a really fun story and something, if you're just a baseball fan, you want to watch because seeing the greatest player ever to play the game as a hitter and a pitcher is just something you're never going to really see again at this level. But from a fantasy perspective, I just don't know that you're ever going to use him. Even in the leagues where he is like Yahoo, where you can get the Ohtani, the pitcher, and just the pitcher. I don't know that he's even valuable there.
No, I'm not. I'm really not interested for this year anyways.
Yeah.
I respect that two things. I respect that as a Giants fan, you're able to call him the best player ever. And also, a lot of people are hesitant to do that because, they're like, oh, well, he's only done it for a couple of years and blah, 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 blah. No, it's pretty clear that he's the best baseball player of all time. And I'm glad to hear you say it because I think a lot of people are hesitant to say that stuff because nobody wants to say things that are going on at the time are the best ever. They think it's like hyperbole.
It's just it's just unprecedented. There's been nobody who's ever been able to, and here's the thing, ultimately, I don't know that we're ever going to see Ohtani be a stud consistently as a pitcher, but the fact that he can even go out there and pitch while hitting 50 home runs and he stole 50 bases last year. I don't think he's ever stealing 50 bases again. But that's unreal. It's just, he is the best player to ever do it. And I just don't understand anybody. Yes, he's on the Dodgers. He's on my least favorite team ever. And I hate the fact that he's on the Dodgers, but I'm not taking that. You can't count that against him in terms of his greatness. I'm just grateful that I get to witness him in my lifetime.
No, I don't do that, but a lot of people, they have blinders on when it comes to people and teams that they hate. So they can't see reality because, they don't want to.
Yeah. So, let's keep it moving. Lance McCullers goes back to the IL. How surprised are you?
Well, I mean, to be fair, it's not an arm injury or anything, but I believe he has a pretty long list of lower body injuries as well. And I think was it an ankle or something? What was it? I don't know McCullers anywhere. So
yeah, dude's been injured his entire career. So
sprain. It's a foot sprain. It's okay. Yeah. That dude, he just cannot stay healthy. I wasn't really a big believer in him this year anyways. You have to keep in mind, the guy hasn't pitched since, I think, 2022. It's been 3 years. So, look, check me on that, but I believe that's what it is.
Yeah. Sounds about
right. He was doing pretty well considering he hadn't pitched in 3 years, but, it's just like guys coming back from Tommy John. You're going to see the control is not going to be there. He had a 4.9 walk per 9 rate. He was striking out a lot of guys, although his swinging strike rate didn't back that up at all. His swinging strike rate was only 10%. And and he had like a 12 K per 9. So I think he was getting a little fortunate with the Ks, but I think he was also getting a little unlucky on results. Like his Sierra was over a full run, lower than his ERA. But overall, I'm just not a McCullers guy. I'm not. I was way out on him this year, and yeah, I'm not. I don't have high expectations when he comes back either.
No, I mean, I don't either. Like, this is one of those guys where people were asking me about him. I was like, listen, if you're a McCullers fan and he's, he pitched well over his last few starts, like you use him now because you don't know how long he's going to be pitching for. Like that's what it comes down to, is you just never know how long he's going to be actually around for. So yeah, to me, like, I think you drop him in most formats, but I understand if other people want to, keep him around for a little bit just to see how long he's going to be out for. So
I don't even know, because a foot sprain is not a common injury in baseball. So I have no idea how long that's going to be. It doesn't sound like it's going to be super long. It's not an arm injury. So I'm not saying he's a drop in like 15s, but I don't know. I mean,
do you think he's actually good enough to like?
Yeah, and I hear that. For me, no, but I avoid this by just not owning him anywhere ever. So
yeah, I didn't bid very much on him when he came around, so like I wasn't worried about like, I'm not in the position to have to make this decision anyway. So if we ever get McCullers and Ryan Weathers on the same team, the earth might explode. I actually comped McCullers to Ryan Weathers just in terms of the injury profile. Like, like you were using Weathers until he got injured, right? Like you just but you knew it was going to happen. Like it just,
I mean, I would say Royce Lewis is probably more so than Weathers, but
we'll get there.
Or Glass now. Yeah, there's
or Giancarlo Stanton, who's now back from the IL. How much do you care about that?
Oh boy. Yeah, I care because he's taking playing time away from guys I would like to play, like Ben Rice. You know what he is. He's got a shit ton of power. Like highest max EV in the league pretty much, or maybe like second now. But he can hit some home runs for you. It might come with a 190 average or two at best, maybe like 230, 240 average. But I don't know. The playing time is probably going to be sporadic. He's not going to play every day because they're going to try to keep him healthy, and he's not going to stay healthy. So he's a super frustrating player. He's a player that people always get excited for and then quickly come back down to reality.
Yeah. I mean, at some point, we're just going to have to come to the realization that you might get a few home runs out of the dude, but he's just going to go back to the IL. Are you worried about Ben Rice's playing time at all now that Stanton is back? Because they're going to give him time.
Yeah, of course. I don't know what the fuck they're doing because they got Goldschmidt. They sat the last 2 days, and someone was like, "Oh, he's going to be short side platoon guy now." I'm like, "There's no fucking way." This guy is the leading vote getter. Granted, it's voting, so whatever. But he's the leading vote getter at first base for the All-Star game. But he's a legit all-star caliber player, veteran, who they're paying to be there, who's hitting really well. He's hitting 311. I get that a lot of his damage comes against lefties, but he's not bad against righties. He's only 270 versus righties. There's just no way that they're going to short side platoon Goldschmidt to play Stanton. That would be asinine. I don't know. I don't know what they're going to do. I think it's just going to be a rotating day off kind of thing, maybe. They're going to give several guys days off here and there. And I know that they're talking about giving Rice more playing time behind the dish. Maybe I would assume once or twice at most a week. But, when was the last time has he even started behind the dish?
I don't think he started this year.
He has 5 games of eligibility at catcher, but he hasn't started a single game that I can see at catcher. So he just comes in later, I guess, in the game.
Oh,
yeah, but he's got 5 games eligibility towards catcher. So Ben Rice could be catcher eligible sometime within the next month or so. It's kind of crazy.
All right. Well, moving right along then. Brady House gets called up. Any interest there?
Be honest with you, this happened again, I think on Sunday. He wasn't going to be available. he wasn't going to be available for Fab. I didn't really have time to look into it. I was hoping you could tell me, should I care?
I mean, I think you should care in this grand scheme of things because I think he's going to play. I think they're going to give him a lot of opportunity. They have no reason not to. They sent down Jose Taillon down to the minor leagues. The question is he going to hit righties enough? And will he make enough contact to unlock the power that's there? Brady House has a ton of power. This is a former first-round pick. He was the 11th overall pick in 2021. We gave him a $5 million signing bonus. He was drafted as a high schooler, so he's been developing quite a while. He was hitting really, really well this year in AAA. 304, 353, 519 with 13 home runs in 283 plate appearances, but he was still striking out at almost 27% clip. He has never been a very good in-zone contact guy, though he did show some improvements in that last year.
Wait.
But that's going to be his major issue.
Wait, where are you seeing in-zone contact on minor leaguers? Where do you get that?
You can get on Fangraphs for AAA.
What? I don't see it.
Yeah, look at.
I am looking.
Go scroll down to plate discipline. I mean, I'm looking at it right now.
I have it in my dashboard. Why wouldn't it be there? I'll be damned. What the fuck? What the fuck?
I mean, do you see it now?
Oh, my stuff must not be StatCast. It must be like SIS or something that's not.
Oh, okay. So StatCast. And I think Pitcher List may even have it for lower levels of the minors. But like he's never been a great contact guy. And so and I heard who was talking about it? I think it might have been Scott Chu was talking about it. And he made a really interesting comp in terms of the type of player. You know, it won't be a perfect 1-for-1. But especially because Nolan Gorman is a lefty, but this is like a Nolan Gorman type profile, right? So Brady House, he's a right-handed hitter. Will he? And that kind of makes it a little scarier, right? Because typically righties hit better off of lefties, and you're not going to see as many lefties. So like there's like short side platoon risk here, but the Nationals aren't winning anything this year. They're currently 15 games back in the division, well below 500. I think they're going to give him plenty of opportunity here, and we could see, some cheap power if you need cheap power at third base. And I don't know where he's eligible in some leagues, but he originally came up as a shortstop, which means in some formats he's going to start with shortstop eligibility and pick up. In NFBC he's just third base, but some leagues like maybe Yahoo, he might like start as a shortstop and then pick up third base eligibility, would make him a little bit more interesting. But this is probably 15 team best. And Chad here is saying the profile is intriguing. The power is definitely there, but he can easily go for his first 32 and get sent back. And I think that is what you're looking at.
Yeah, and a lot of even guys who have good bat to ball skills, prospects that come up struggle. And like you said, 26.5% K rate in the majors. That's okay if you're a power hitter. 26.5% is okay. But generally, I add like 5% when they're going from the minors to the majors, and it can obviously be much more than that. But generally, guys are going to be about 5% higher than what they were in the minors. So he seems like he's going to probably strike out over 30%. And that's going to be really difficult for him to have a lot of value. And you said he's got a ton of power. I mean, he only had 19 homers and 540 plate appearances last year. This year had 13 in like about a half a season. So that would be like about 26 homers in the minors. I don't know.
I mean, it was 13 in 65 games.
Okay, so we'll say 30 homer power. I mean, but then translating to the majors, probably closer to 20, 22, something like that. It seems like he has some power, sure, but for that K rate, I would want more power than that. And so I feel like he's going to struggle to make contact. He'll probably have some cold streaks. Could end up getting sent back down. He's not a guy I would go crazy for based on what I'm seeing.
All right. Next on the docket, you talked about or mentioned Jacob Misirowski debuting. He looked really good in that first debut. I don't know if you watched it all at all. does struggle with control.
Yeah.
But this is a really, really live arm with really, really good stuff. I watched it live with Nick Pollock, and he and I were both very intrigued by him. Where are you at on Misirowski for this year? Were you one of the people bidding $200-$300 on him this week?
No, I think one of the worst investments in general in NFBC is when people spend hundreds of dollars on rookies. I'm not saying that once in a while someone doesn't hit, but those are just overall bad investments. You don't know what you're going to get, especially a guy like that where he has a glaring, obvious, hole in his game, which is his control. I think he'll probably be good versus mediocre to bad offenses where he can get away with bad control and they'll swing at shit. But anytime he faces a more patient offense, I think he's gonna be in trouble. I'm not saying he's not worth being bid on, but I think I thought of him as like a $70 to $80 player, maybe in that range, and people bidding, $200-$300, good luck. That is not where I want to be.
Yeah, I mean, I did a podcast with Paul not too long ago, maybe like a month ago, and we discussed all the guys who had already gone for triple digits, and we came to kind of that same conclusion, which is very rarely are guys actually worth this.
Yeah.
And like it's ultimately like, people are going to take their shots, but I think they often take these shots way too early when they don't know like how their team is even going to play out, like what this team is going to need.
Right? Like you can't wait a week to see how he looks, right? Like you have to bet on him when he first comes up.
No, I just mean like early on in the season, like they're like the first time these guys come up, like, right? Because there's always somebody who comes up early April and people spend $300-$400 on them. And I just think that's a really bad waste of money.
It is.
Now, I like Misirowski, and if I could get him for cheap in a league, I absolutely would.
Is that how you say his name, by the way? I have no idea. It's Misirowski?
I think Misirowski.
It looks like Misirowski, but you're saying Misirowski. And I thought you would listen to Nick Pollock, and I thought maybe he knew. I have no idea how to say it. I was just curious.
Yeah, Paul actually corrected me, and I've already forgotten. I'm not going to sit here and lie. Like I honestly, I'm terrible with fucking names.
I remember I'm familiar with you.
One of my first guest spots on a podcast was on the ITL podcast, with the Welsh and Bogman. And I butchered so many names. I think I called Michael Kodai Cuddier. Like it was bad. Like I'm just terrible with names, and I always will be. Like there's there's no reason for me to lie. Like so. There was someone else recently that I was completely butchering their name, and someone had to like DM me and like actually give me like the pronunciation guide on it.
We've got Eric Halterman in the chat. He's got us covered. It's Misirowski.
Thank you, Misirowski. I'm still gonna fuck it up because, like I said, I've already been corrected on it.
I was saying Misirowski, so it's just Misirowski. Okay.
Misirowski. Okay.
All right. Thanks.
All right. But no, I like him. If I could get him in, those of you who play in Yahoo, those of you who play in ESPN, like I would totally pick him up right now.
Yeah,
I think the upside is immense. And Nick and I had a massive argument over whether or not he would be more valuable or Yuri Perez would be more valuable the rest of the way.
Okay.
And Nick was on the Yuri side. I was not. Because we had that discussion, remember, with Samolsky about Yuri. And I said, oh, Yuri got shellacked. And Eric was like, oh, whoa, no, you need to go back and watch this. Or, I did go back and watch it. I was not like, there were moments in which I was like, ooh, that was a really good pitch. Or, ooh, that reminds me of Yuri in, when he was in his stride in his rookie season. And there were times he was missing the zone by over a foot. Like where people like you weren't swinging at it, like, right. Like, like no one was swinging at that. And I think that's very indicative of TJ returnee guys, right? Guys who just cannot control their stuff or command their stuff. And I think the fact that Yuri plays on the Marlins, you already have 0 win potential on the Marlins. And now you add the fact that I don't think Yuri is going to go 5 very often this season, because why would they push him in his first season back from TJ? And I'm going to say Misirowski every time over Yuri.
I'm not going to pretend like I knew, which I wasn't enamored with either this year. I would love to get Yuri next year, especially if he keeps struggling. I'm hoping it'll keep his price down. I don't know. I know a lot of people I think Eno has said that Stuff Plus early on is like, in looking at the first, I don't know how many starts of a pitcher, Stuff Plus is more telling than Sierra or whatever as ERA predictors. I don't know if that's true or not. I'm looking at his Stuff Plus ratings. Like, his fastball is 112. Last year it was 114, so it's only slightly down. Apparently he's throwing a sinker now, which he didn't throw last year. It's a 91 Stuff Plus. His slider is 120 compared to 116 last year, so it's up 4. His curve is 128, which is up from 111 last year, so that's up big. And then his changeup was 81 last year, and it's 93 this year. Now, this is all based on either 1 or 2, I think 2 starts. His location plus is 94, which is not great, but it was only 98 last year. And Misirowski's location plus is only 86. I don't know. I bid more on Misirowski for better or for worse. I didn't go big on either of them. I think I bid like, $70, $80 on Misirowski and like $50 on Yuri Perez. And I just kind of looked at it as, okay, if I get one of them for this, I'm willing to write it off as a loss if they're not good. But I felt like it was worth it for the upside, even though I think that they could both end up being very frustrating players to have. You're on mute.
Has to happen once that episode. I think that's good. Yeah. Well, that was just my mic wasn't plugged in. Yeah, no, I feel the same way. Like, I think they're both probably going to be frustrating to roster this year. But I think if I was going to pick between the two, give me Misirowski. Like, I just think he has the better chance. He's on the better team. I think that the Brewers will push him a little bit more. I mean, they literally traded Aaron Savali away just to get him into the lineup or into the rotation. So, like, I think the better bet is Misirowski, but I wouldn't be surprised if neither of these guys are super fantasy relevant by the end. I do think that Misirowski has a ton of upside, though. So if I'm going to take a gamble,
they both do. I think next year might be the time. I mean, look, Yuri Perez has the right skills. I just don't, coming off of TJ, I don't know if he's going to put it together this year or not. I think next year I'd rather have Yuri Perez, but this year Misirowski is probably the better bet.
Yeah. All right. Next on the docket, we've got another prospect call up, Christian Moore. Do you know much about him?
Not really. I mean, no. Okay, let me put it this way. I know who he is. If you're asking me, do I know what to expect from him in the majors? Not really. Like, I wasn't overly interested because I don't even know if he's going to stay up. Renjifo's finally starting to do things. And I know that Christian Moore was a higher K rate guy in the minors too. And it looks like, 5 homers, 8 steals, and 238 plate appearances with a 279 average and a 27.3% K rate. And, it's a small sample, but he's striking out a lot already in the majors. And he doesn't hit the ball really hard. I get 39% hard hit rate in the minors. I don't think he's going to succeed in his first go around. I know he's a former number 1 overall pick. I think he was like 8th pick or something overall last year. And, I don't see Christian Moore having value this year is the bottom line.
I mean, this is another guy where, like, I think he just needs to show he can make contact at the major league level. And I don't know if he's ready to do that. There is power, there is speed in the profile. But like, that being said, like,
power. Not yet.
There's raw. Yeah. I think there's raw power. Like, it's not game power yet. Like, because you look at, like, he was at Salt Lake City, which is a pretty damn good place to hit. He only hit 5 home runs. Right. So it's not like I don't think the power is necessarily game ready. I do think there's power in that bat. The problem is the hit tool doesn't really profile as something that's going to be really, really good. And so, like, I don't know. Like, Ron Washington's a pretty good coach. But we are talking about a guy with like an 81% zone contact rate in AAA this year. That if you're doing that at AAA, you're probably not a major leaguer. So I'm a little bit more concerned by them. I really didn't put bids on him. But apparently he's a volunteer. So
what's up, Britton?
Yeah.
How are you, buddy?
Yeah, Lucas Giolito turned back clock to 2019 tonight. Yeah, I streamed him. Thank God. I'm really, really glad I had him in my lineup tonight. So yeah, I don't know that Christian Moore is going to have a lot of value outside of really, really deep leagues. They only maybe some really deep 15 teamers.
And whenever Moncada comes back, he's going to start at third, and I think they're going to move Rengifo to second. So I don't.
Yeah, absolutely good.
I don't see
unless Moore's hitting. If Moore's hitting, then like he can stay.
If Moore's hitting and Rengifo started hitting, but we'll see. And running too, and he had a double dong game a couple games ago. So if he keeps performing, I think they want Rengifo to take the job. But yeah, if he keeps struggling and if Christian Moore starts hitting, but that's not someone I believe in. I'm not a Christian Moore. I don't think he's going to be this year.
Chad says his profile is very similar to Trey Sweeney to him. I think Moore has more power and more speed, but I think the hit tool is very, very similar. And if we've seen what Trey Sweeney has done in the majors, like he's got a 68 WRC plus this year. Like that's not really a major leaguer. Or at least
well, Trey Sweeney is also 25. I mean, Christian Moore has plenty of time to keep developing.
Yeah.
But
moving on to Royce Lewis, who we had a little brief mention of earlier, back to the IL. Some of the hamstring injury, they're saying it's not considered super serious. This is just frustrating because you got the full Royce Lewis experience over the weekend where you hit a home run. And like, I literally said, I was like, oh, now he's going to go get hurt. And like an hour later, like it was like,
I mean, so this is your fault, is what you're saying.
I mean, probably. Like, I'll take full, credit for that, I guess. Like,
the world revolves around Justin. Yeah, no, he really has become the new Buxton. Like, dude cannot stay healthy. I was all in on him when he was coming off of injury before. When I got him, like, just picked him up for free. But once his ADP skyrocketed up this year, I was so far out. And, this is probably going to be like a thing like Buxton where he's going to keep getting overdrafted for years until people realize he can't stay healthy. And then he's going to fall to like, the middle of the draft. And that's when you can pounce and be like, okay, now there's actually value that I can get from this. But he's not someone that you want to just, hope and a wish that he's going to stay healthy for you because it's not going to happen.
If he's going inside the top 250 next year, I'm not drafting him. I won't. I just can't do it again. I fell for it this year, and I knew it was a mistake when I did it. And we'll talk more. We'll talk more about that kind of stuff here in a little bit about early lessons we've learned. But yeah, that's one. Justin Martinez is getting Tommy John surgery. Obviously, an easy drop. Yeah. Is Shelby Miller the dude you think?
Yeah, absolutely. I think so.
Yeah. Unfortunately, he's not available in any leagues.
Because Puck is hurt too. So.
Yeah. So I think it's Miller until they bring someone at the deadline. If they bring someone at the deadline.
Yeah, they could.
I think they could. Like Kenley would make a lot of sense there.
That could happen. Yeah. A lot of pickups last week. So.
Yeah. Someone people should be picking up, but you're gonna have to wait until the trade deadline, which is like a month away, or more than a month and a half away.
See, I don't know with Detmers. Like, I don't know if they like you saw the quote from Ron Washington saying like when he gets to start again, I think he's gonna be really good. But he didn't say that it was gonna happen this year, and I think a lot of people took it that way. So I don't know. Right now, I think the Angels need him. Like, he's their best reliever. So like I have trouble seeing them taking the confidence that he's gained from being a dominant reliever now and potentially failing as a starter at this point. It could come down the line, and if they trade Kenley, he seems like the best bet to be a closer. Like, he would probably be a dominant closer too. So
I think he should be a closer. I think that'd be perfect for him.
I think so too. I think he's a really good spec pickup for a closer. I don't know that he's going to get a shot to start this year though. So if you picked him up for that, I don't know that you're going to get what you wanted.
Yeah, no, I agree. Next on the docket, we've got a few more IL guys. Kodai Senga to the IL, going to miss like 3 to 4 weeks, I believe, with his injury. You're just holding, right?
I see. The thing is, I don't know because like I don't own these guys, so I don't even. What's the injury?
I believe it's a hamstring strain or something like that.
Okay, grade 1 hamstring strain. Yeah, I think you just hold him. I think he'll probably just be out like probably a month.
Said, I think they said 3 to 4 weeks. Last I saw.
Well, he's a pitcher, so he has to. He'll be shut down for a couple of weeks. Then he'll have to ramp back up and maybe have a rehab start.
Expected to be out at least 5 weeks.
Oh, okay. So then he'll be back after the All-Star break.
All-Star break, yeah.
Yeah, or early August. Yeah, I mean, he was pitching over his head. He wasn't nearly as good as the results said he was, but I think he's good enough for you to hold him right now with all the other injuries going on. Like, there's a lot of guys who I would not hold. I'm not holding Bryce Miller, Cole Ragans, guys like that. So,
well, we'll get there here in a second. Yeah, you transition right there. Cole Ragans to the IL. He's going to be getting a second opinion on his shoulder. Second opinion's never good. We talked about this last week. I didn't drop him. I should have. I will. You're dropping him, right?
Yeah. I would have dropped him on Sunday. I mean, assuming there's anything worth picking up. And I mean anything.
That's the thing.
I would pick up Patrick Corbin for him. Anything that's going to help you. Because I don't.
I picked up Francis Bowden this week for
what? Bowden Francis you picked up?
Or Bowden Francis. He's going up against the White Sox.
Oh my God.
I ended up not starting him. I got him for $1. Like it wasn't like a
I would. You'd have to pay me like $400 to accept him on my team and play him. Like there's no way that fucker is coming anywhere near my team. No.
Fair. Okay. Logan Gilbert back tonight in dominant. We had a discussion last week about whether or not we should be starting Logan Gilbert. I said I was going to.
Yeah. Did you?
I did.
Nice.
And thank God I did because he looked really, really good next to my streaming pickups of Lucas Giolito and Mitch Spence.
Yeah. I mean, I play the odds. When you have a elbow flexor strain, that's like 90% chance of Tommy John. So is it possible that he pulls a Brian Wu and doesn't end up getting TJ? Yes, but this doesn't convince me that he's going to be fine for the rest of the season. But obviously, if you're an owner, this is better to see than not. 10 strikeouts today in 5 innings, and I don't know. I haven't looked too deep into it to know. Like, I don't know if he had swing strikes stuff going and the control was
I haven't
there,
watched the starting yet. I haven't watched the outing yet, so I'll probably be doing it after we're done recording here. But I'm scared. I'm not gonna lie. I'm not gonna sit here and be like, because I was like super, super high on Logan Gilbert. But like this scares the crap out of me. If I could trade him right now, I would. Right?
Oh yeah. Let me be clear about that. If you guys are in trading leagues, trade him now because you could probably get a lot for him right now. And do that. But yeah, I mean, it's obviously if you own him, it's great to see. I mean, it's you thought you might not see him again this year, so
I didn't think I would.
Right.
So, I'm happy to get him. Get anything out of him right now. So,
absolutely.
I have no idea what else we're gonna get from him rest of the way. So, but I'll take it for right now. That covers all the news. Let's move on into our next subject, which is overall what has been going as expected, what hasn't, any early lessons so far. This is your section that you came up with, so why don't you kind of lead the show?
It was. So yeah, last week was kind of we're not quite halfway. Well, I don't know how we're close to halfway, right? Almost halfway.
Yeah, we're almost there.
Yeah. Okay. Maybe another 2 weeks away from halfway. We were kind of talking about how we're kind of figuring out where we're at this point. You can still move in the standings. Don't get me wrong, but you should have a pretty good idea. Are you a contender? Are you not? I'm not saying you should. It's too early to be like, if you're in an overall competition, saying, okay, I'm going to stop going for the overall if I don't have enough saves, and I'm just going to focus on winning the league. I'm not saying that yet, but I'm saying you should have a pretty good idea of where you're at. So I was kind of looking at what are some lessons, because, a big thing of what I want to always do is grow every year, become a better player, and figure out where did I go wrong in the draft and how can I make sure and remember next year not to make those same mistakes. Because it feels like every year we get caught up in kind of a lot of the same things come draft season. You got the buzzy guys, and we start to feel like we need to have certain players or certain types of players, and so I'm curious where you think you've gone wrong so far and what lessons you've learned that you're going to carry forward. I wrote down a couple of mine, and I think one of the main things that stood out to me this year is I think I just need to de-emphasize ADP even more. I think it's good to use it as a guideline in terms of knowing where guys that you like are going to go, but it's where you're only looking at the section of guys that you think are going to go between your two picks, and you're like, okay, this is all I can choose from here, right? It's like if you think the best player on the board isn't going to go for 4 rounds from now, I'm not saying you have to take him right then, but don't force a player in that area just because that's where they go. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's,
And
I mean, something
like,
I've
go ahead.
I was gonna say it's something I've like really tried to do the last few years, which is really rely on my own projections, right? I do spend a lot of fucking time doing projections. Really rely upon them. And yeah, like I said, use ADP as a guide to be like, okay, maybe I have this guy, Kerry Carpenter is a great example, right? Kerry Carpenter, I had way above ADP. And I spent too much time playing with the ADP, right? And I ended up with Kerry Carpenter a lot, but not nearly as he should have been on every single one of my teams, right?
Yeah.
He, because I had him so far above ADP. This happened with me last year with Marcell Ozuna, where like Marcell Ozuna is like the best buy, and I got Marcell Ozuna nowhere, because I would play around with the ADP, or I go, well, I could get, Eloy Jimenez later. Like, that worked out fucking great, I feel like the teams where I did a really good job of staying true to my own values and not worrying about other things are the teams that are faring much better right now. So I'm in 100% agreement with that.
Yeah, and so I was thinking of one specific example for me this year was there were several first baseman that I was really high on late. So like if I didn't get a first baseman that I liked early, and I'm not like an early Matt Olson or Pete Alonso, who's been great by the way this year, but I'm not taking those guys where they go. But what I did was I was like, well, I kind of like Christian Encarnacion Strand a little bit. And instead of just not because sometimes like you get deep into the draft, and you're like, okay, I don't have a first baseman yet, and you start to like kind of panic. But like I loved guys like Jonathan Aranda, O'Hearn, Torkelson, and Ben Rice. Like I should have said, fuck taking CES here. I'm just gonna wait and take like 2 or 3 of those guys, and like if someone doesn't work out or whatever, I can drop them. Because people are always worried about like, well, if I already have 2 first basemen, don't take a third. And I'm like, yeah, early in the draft, yes, you don't want to take 2 utility only players or something like that, or 3 or like 4 first basemen early, but late in the draft, like it's okay to take a pick that might not work out and you're gonna have to dump, because so many picks especially after pick 20, like 20 through 30, a lot of those just don't hit. Like go back and look at your drafts. You're gonna see so many picks that just didn't hit. So don't be afraid to just kind of like, if you like a bunch of the late options, don't try to force a guy that you're like, okay, this guy's, I kind of like him. Like take the guys you really do like later, and hope if you like 4 guys and you take 3 or 4 of them, and I mean, unless you suck at fantasy baseball, probably one of them is going to work out, right? Like someone's going to do something. Now, in the case of the 4 guys that I listed, they actually all ended up being pretty good. Rice was great early on, so that's still a great pick in my opinion, even if he ends up losing playing time now. So yeah, I'm just trying to like make sure I don't next year like panic when I don't have a position, earlier in the draft, if I like the later guys.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think, yeah, part of what has failed me a little bit is a little bit of that, right? Like, I definitely had guys that I had pegged for later in the draft, and either I'd kind of forget to pull the trigger on them, or I'd try to pull the trigger on them too late. And especially when we get late into draft season, right?
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
early when you're early in draft season, and I know you don't draft a lot early,
No.
but I think it's really easy to kind of go, oh, I can wait on this guy because other people haven't done the research. By the time we get to the last week of March, everybody's done the research, like, right? And even the ones that aren't doing a lot of their own research, they're listening to those of us who have done their research, and they're marking these players down. And so I really, and I think this goes back to the conversation we were just having about value. I really got to take guys where I value them, right? And so, like, to me, like, missing out on, I think Torkelson is a really, really good example. I was definitely higher on him than the market, and then ended up with him nowhere. And I wish I hadn't. I think another thing for me, and one of the reasons like I didn't end up with a guy like Torkelson enough, was I didn't do a very good job of making sure I had open positions, especially when you're someone like me who is okay with drafting a UT only player and drafting them early. That limits your options. I'm not saying you shouldn't do that, but you should keep your other options open, right? Like, I don't end up with Torkelson on my main event team because I put Cam Smith at CI too early, right? And then at that point, it's like, oh, I really can't take a Torkelson guy, where he's going. Especially in my auctions.
Was this before you knew that he was going to gain outfield eligibility?
I think so. I honestly can't remember. So long ago at this point. But it was like, especially in my auctions where like you don't have the option of drafting a reserve player until your lineup's full, right? Mm-hmm. That I think hurt me in a number of leagues where it's like, oh, I could have gotten this guy at this point, and I didn't because I wasn't careful enough about filling up certain positions early enough.
So what you were saying about the draft season resonated with me too, because I've done now the last 2 years, I've done my main, like the one that I do without Tony. I do it it's like the last live main event of the draft season. So it's in Vegas, and it's like the Tuesday or Wednesday after the live main that everybody does in Vegas on Saturday. So it's several days after that. And so the problem with it is that everything's solidified by then. Like, even at the Saturday main, there's still unknowns, right? Like, we don't know if Birdsong's in the rotation yet, all stuff like that. Like, there was a bunch of stuff that was still unknown. By my last main, everybody knew the rotations. Everybody knew who was in the lineup. So there's a lot less wasted picks. And that's problematic because you lose that edge over the less informed players, because a lot of wasted picks happen, especially rounds 20 through 30, where you're still able to get guys like, Bubic and Warren and Roupp and Boyd and stuff like that. Those guys were gone by early rounds, like 20, 21, 22. Like, those guys at my super a week earlier, I was getting like 5 rounds later. So like the fact that, you have to. So the adjustment that I made, knowing that going in, is I try to get those starters earlier, and then what ended up falling to the end of the draft was a lot of those late hitters and platoon guys. Kind of like I got Ryan O'Hearn in round 27, 28, something like that. So you just have to make adjustments knowing what part of the draft season you're drafting in. And I was also going to say, similarly to the Christian Encarnacion Strand thing, I also ended up taking Brandon Pfaadt in my main with Tony, where we liked Bubic, Warren, Roupp, Boyd, Taillon. We liked them as much as Pfaadt, just they went later. And that's a kind of one of those things where we knew we needed pitchers. And so we took him thinking, okay, we like him sort of, but there's other guys that we like more. We should have just not done that and just pushed those other guys up to make sure we take several of those guys.
All right. Yeah, I think for me,
go ahead.
I think for me with the pitchers, my big mistake was not taking enough upside later on. And like, because you're going to drop so many of these guys, right? Like if Chris Bubic doesn't work out and you took him in even like the 17th round, you're probably going to drop your 17th rounder at some point anyways, right? And like, I feel like I didn't take enough shots there, after, not to say I don't like some of the guys I ended up with, like the Jose Barrioses who fell. And like, Barrios has been really good after that first terrible start of the season, which, freaked me the fuck out. But like I should have taken shots on more shots on, the Chris Bubiches of the world. And not to say I didn't take shots on guys like Tyler Mahle that have worked out, though now Molly's on the IL as well. I just feel like I probably could have taken some more shots on guys like that.
So I think there's a lot more value on the pitching side in those like late teens to early 20s rounds, because a lot of times with starters, we're just looking for guys who have the right skill set. Like it doesn't matter what their ERA was last year or, their whip. If they're a young, unproven guy like, Chris Bubic and Will Warren and stuff like that, you're just looking for the guys with the right skills and the opportunity. But those guys can be such game changers, much more than I can find hitters at that point. Because most of the hitters who play every day and who have any type of upside are gone by that point. And that's why I usually like to build where I start strong on hitters. Then I kind of, there'll be a pocket of pitching that I like to attack. And then I make sure I get a lot of my hitters after that. And then as we're getting towards like from 15 to 25, those rounds, that's where I'm really attacking starters. And I'm looking for guys like some of the guys I mentioned before who are undervalued and who, like, if they take off like a Chris Bubic, you're drafting them around 24 or whatever, they could easily return round 5-6 value, So, Chris Bubic has been a huge game changer this year. Now, granted, we'll see how many innings he ends up pitching and everything this year. I think that he wouldn't be a terrible guy to sell high on right now. But even if he doesn't do a whole lot more from here on out, he's been a huge impact so far.
Yeah, I think that's fair. All right, what's your next little check mark?
Yeah, so this is going to be coming from me,
right up my alley. This is my time to shine.
Stop drafting starting pitchers who start on the IL. And I never do when it's an arm injury, but I convinced myself, if it's like a minor, leg injury or an oblique or something like that, well, here I am in mid-June and fucking Sean Manaea still isn't back, and it's like, the opportunity cost was still too high for him. Like, despite starting on the IL, he was going like round 15. I mean, like, think about all those guys that I listed before. You could have had like any of those guys, at the point that I was taking Manaea, and it was just too high. And I think we just need to stop. I mean, if you're drafting pitchers with an arm injury starting on the IL, that's real dumb. Like, don't bother. The setbacks, the time to ramp up, like, there's just so many things that can go wrong where it can take much longer than you think it's going to take. And it's just, you've got this locked up spot, and it's opportunity cost. We talked about this in the last pod. It's who are you not picking up along the way because you've dedicated that spot to holding this player. And I also kind of added / stop drafting guys starting in the minors. And we, in my main with Tony, we drafted Bubba Chandler. Well, here we are in mid-June, and Bubba Chandler still not up yet. And his last 2 starts, he's now looked horrific. So I don't know what the fuck's going on with him. I don't know. People are asking me, like, when do you think he's going to be up? I got no clue. I'd probably search his name on Twitter like 10 times a week just to throw it out there. Like, any news on him? What are we doing here? And now I'm thinking they might just use this as a reason to keep him down for a while because now he's struggling. So I don't know. But, Skeens was up and dominant early last year. But for every Skeens, there's like 20 guys who don't work out. So I found if you just draft boring, you're going to come out on top way more often.
Yeah. I mean, first I just got to say, I forgot we were doing this section and I was actually cheering for the next section. So, but second, no, I couldn't agree with you more. It's like, and here's the thing. I say this every year, and then what do? I draft George Kirby. Like I always do this. I need and my hope is that next year I will be in Vegas for some of the live events.
You want me to sit next to you and slap you if you're talking?
Oh, I was about to say, I was like, I'm going to give you a taser and just
that's even better.
tase me, especially in. I won't be doing a main in Vegas. I'll just be doing auctions. So that's even safer for me because someone throws out George Kirby and you could just tase me right in the neck. Or whoever the Sean Manaea George Kirby is.
Yeah, whoever's starting on the IL. Yeah.
Yeah, just
don't you fucking think about it, Mason. Don't even fucking think about it.
Just, wear a shock collar or something like that and you can push the button and okay, yeah, no, I'm not going to do that. Maybe we should test it out beforehand so I don't inadvertently bid because I'm yelping.
As you're spasming on the floor, you're out for the next 4 guys after him too.
Oh, Mason just raised his hand. He must want this guy. No, for sure. I'm not going to do this again. So
I keep thinking there's exceptions, and it's not that there aren't. And that's the thing. I get that
they're too hard to predict.
Exactly. Somewhere someone's like, oh, but I drafted this one guy one time and he came back in 2 weeks into the season. He was phenomenal. Okay. I'm not saying that doesn't happen, but your odds are horrible. It usually does not go your way. And so if you want to go against the odds, then go for it. But that's not how smart people play.
I know years ago when DFS was first getting big, there was this big push to be like, DFS and fantasy sports isn't gambling, right? Because it's a game of skill, which let's fucking be honest. It obviously is gambling, right? We're all gambling here. But it's so funny because there's so many corollaries between fantasy sports, fantasy baseball, especially, and poker, right? It's such a numbers game. There's luck involved, but for the most part, the better players win out in the long run, even if there is, good, bad, or indifferent luck that goes into it. But the one thing that is just so starkly different between fantasy sports, fantasy baseball in particular, and poker is you ask any poker player what their worst beat is, they'll tell you in an instant. But fantasy baseball players, man, they never remember all the ones that go wrong. They only remember the times they got it right. And it's so true when it comes to these injured players. Everybody remembers oh, well, this guy did it. This guy did. No one's going to remember 3 or 4 years down the road that Shane McClanahan was a massive bust.
Who did you say?
Shane McClanahan.
Oh,
it was you and I will remember, but there are going to be a lot of people who are drafting next year's version of Shane McClanahan, whoever is.
You don't have to. That was an obvious one to me. McClanahan was someone I will.
Of course it was, but there will be a ton of people drafting next year's version of that.
Believe me, I know.
And and it's because they always forget. They always and I don't want to I'm not saying I'm better than them or anything like that, because I said, I drafted George Kirby in a couple leagues this year. But we as a community just forget. We remember all the ones that hit. We remember all the rookies that hit. We remember all the injured players that hit, and we completely forget about all the ones that fail us.
I'm definitely done making I'm going to draft guys with arm injuries. I'm past that point. I've learned that. I just need to keep telling myself, don't bother with the guys with obliques and stuff like that too. The non-arm injuries. There's no exceptions. If they're starting on the IL, take a shot on someone else. It's not worth it. Just go a different direction.
Yeah.
All right. So this next section is what you thought.
Yes.
You always
this is my jam right here.
Yeah, your eyes skip ahead and skip stuff all the time. So you were skipping to the next one.
I'm glad the video is only showing me chest up right now. That's what I'm saying.
This is not a zone contact argument, by the way.
It is. It absolutely is.
It's the thing that Jacob Wilson has kind of opened my eyes to is draft guys with bat to ball skills, because sometimes those guys can add other things. Sometimes they can have a little power. Sometimes they can add a little speed. But those guys who are consistently getting hits and getting on base have value. And I think we get too caught up in, okay, the StatCast numbers and the guys who are the big max EVs and stuff like that. And we forget that guys like Jacob Wilson can have a lot of value. And like, if you think about like Yandy Diaz, how much value he's had in Tampa, he's always been an elite contact guy who just, his launch angle was atrocious. But he still is a very valuable player. And if you had drafted him, he was essentially free earlier in his career. Geraldo Perdomo, another guy, big contact guy, this year has added a little bit of power and speed to his profile, and he's been one of the best shortstops in baseball so far. Luis Garcia was a guy who until last year didn't really display much power, but he always had like an elite contact rate. Eric said that too. Sorry, I didn't even see that. And then
literally just said it right now.
Oh, okay. Did he say it right as I was saying it?
Yeah.
Yep. And then I always think of the original guy who made me think of it was Jose Ramirez. Back in the day, he was, and people might not remember, but the dude didn't have any power. Like when he first came up for the first several years of his career, he was basically just a high average and guy who could give you some steals. For the first, like he came up for like a cup of coffee in 2013, but then 2014 he had 2 homers in a half season. 2015 he had 6 homers in 355 plate appearances. 2016 he had 11 homers, 22 steals though too, and he hit 312. And then 2017 he had 29 homers with a 318 average. So like you just never know these guys who have these elite bat to ball skills, if they can develop other, because the guys hitting 40 homers but hit like 240, 250, they're not going to become 300 hitters. Like that doesn't happen. I'm sure it's happened somewhere, but in like overall, it's got to be like less than 1% of the cases that actually develop like into like elite average guys or like elite contact guys while also being power hitters. But I think if you have those elite bat to ball skills, other things can develop from there. That's like a skill that's really hard to teach.
Yeah. I mean, you're preaching to the choir here. I speak zone contact all day long.
Just contact.
And I'm glad you're finally coming around.
Oh my God.
To the fact that zone contact is an extremely important stat. It really
I'm gonna have to. Oh my God, I'm gonna have to reach out to Paul and apologize to him for empowering you on this some more, because that's not my intention. This is not about zone contact. This is about contact and average overall contact.
Yeah, but what is the most important kind of contact? It's contact in the
contact
zone.
rate. Just the straight up contact rate is the most important.
Yeah, how many home runs do you think you're getting off of contact outside of the zone? Not much, right? I mean, like you're getting your best hits. You're squaring up the ball. You're getting it on the barrel inside of the zone.
Okay.
Like it's. I mean it's just like like logic here. Like
how's Colt Keith doing this year?
I think he's been unlucky. I mean, do you not think he's going to be better than he has been? Probably don't.
Much. No, not really, to be honest with you. No. Oh, Eric gave another good example. Jung-Hoo Lee. Yep, that's another guy who coming into the year, you're like, okay, I think he can give me power or some average, but might be empty. Now, Jung-Hoo Lee did hit 23 home runs in the KBO in 2022, for what it's worth. So
yeah, but like, the KBO is like double A.
Yeah, for sure. He had 2 homers and 158 plate appearances last year. I know he got hurt with a 278 XBA. This year he's only hitting 265 now. He was hitting much higher before. He's got a 288 XBA. But he's got 6 homers and 6 steals. So like he's providing like value that drafters might not have assumed they were getting, and that's why he lasted to like the 17th round or whenever he was going.
making a lot of contact, and I say this over and over again, and I'll just say contact and not zone contact because I
Yes.
want you to stay happy.
No, you don't.
Making a lot of contact gives you the opportunity to get lucky, right? If you're not making contact, the ball's not going into play. You're not giving yourself the opportunity to get lucky. And this is why I talk so much about zone contact. But if you want to just say contact in general, whatever, I think you're just making a semantics argument there. But ultimately, I think you want guys who can hit the ball. Like, you cannot unlock tools unless you are hitting the ball and getting on base. I want guys who have a good approach, and I want guys who make a lot of contact. And I'm going to give you 3 examples, all guys who are having kind of underrated breakouts this year, that are all high contact guys, right? That you could have gotten fairly affordably that we haven't even mentioned yet. Isaac Paredes, right? Like, is having a great season. TJ Friedl is having an extremely underrated season.
We already, like, everybody and their mother knew Paredes was a monster, pick going to Houston. Like, that wasn't a shock. Like, we knew that.
But it's the fact that he's doing that with that contact, right? Like, with that contact means, like, I don't think this is going to regress at all.
Okay. I mean, I'm just saying, like, that was not a shock. I mean, the dude pulls, over 50% of his balls. Like, he's hit 31 homers before in 2023. So, having 15 homers at this point with the Crawford boxes, that's not shocking at all.
Well, no, it's not. The power's not shocking, but like, the fact that, like, he's able, I think he can actually get a better batting average is the important thing. I mean, the dude is making really, really good in zone contact. Yeah. He's making 92% zone contact. That's elite for a power.
Yes, but it's average isn't just that's not the only component of average. It's
sure, but
it's line drive rate. It's also hard hit rate, and that's where he's lacking. Like, he does not hit the ball very hard. Like, he's got a minuscule barrel percentage, but because he pulls it so much, that's how he's able to hit as many home runs as he does. I don't think he's going to hit much higher than 250 ever. I mean, his XBA is 253. He's never hit over 250 before, and I mean, projection has him at like 247 to, I think the highest is 257 for the bat. So, and the bat X has him at 243. I don't know. I don't think there's a lot of upside because I don't think he hits the ball hard enough. Like, this is why Stephen Kwan doesn't hit, 330, because he doesn't hit the ball hard enough. It's not, he doesn't lack the contact ability. He lacks the hard hit ability.
But like TJ Friedl, he's having a really underrated season in 290, 384, 448 home runs, 7 stolen bases. He's walking and he's making a crap ton of contact, and then the other one was a guy I was huge on and I got a ton of spots. Maikel Garcia, man. Like, this was a guy that, like, I told people, like, dude, he makes so much contact and he's fast. Like, he's going to have a much better batting average. He's going to bounce back. He got super unlucky last year. And he's having a monster breakout this year.
Yeah, I think that's an interesting example. Maikel Garcia, TJ Friedl, again, like, he's done it before. Like, that's not, he did this in
his is health. I mean, his is health too.
Yeah, like, his is health, and he plays in Great American Small Park. So, and he pulls the ball. He's also pulling at a 53% clip right now. So, yeah, like, you do that in Great American, you're going to hit some home runs for sure. But we knew he had speed. We knew he had some power. I was more talking about the guys who look like they're empty average and how those guys can shock us by adding other skills. Whereas,
well, I think Jacob Wilson's a really interesting guy in this kind of case scenario, because I think if they're still playing in Oakland, he's not doing what he's doing, right? Like, he's still hitting for average.
Oh, you mean like the power wouldn't be there if it weren't in Sacramento?
Yeah, it's just Sacramento. Like, Sacramento is massive for him. And you know what? Who cares, right? He's going to play in Sacramento.
He's got 4 homers. He's got 4 homers away too. So, I mean, it's not like all of his power is coming from Sacramento. So, I mean, I don't know. I'm just saying it's kind of made me think that, okay, if they've already got like the bat to ball skills, other skills could follow. So those guys are particularly interesting.
especially as they develop and they get bigger and stronger, just being, getting older and being major leaguers, right? Better diet, better strength program, and things like that. I'm with you. The first thing I look at when a guy comes up from the minor leagues is what is their hit tool look like? Like, right. This is why I'm not as interested in like Brady House. This is why I'm not as interested in Christian Moore, is because I look at them and I go, they've got other tools, but they don't have a hit tool. And it doesn't matter. Like, yes, there are certain guys that somehow make it work without a very good hit tool, but they almost always fall off, right? Look at Javi Baez, right? Javi Baez being a bad example this year, but
I mean, he's falling for a long time though.
Yeah. I mean, the reason why Lawrence Butler and Brent Doyle broke out last year is because they improved their hit tools, right? And I want guys who can make contact.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
All right. Let's move over to the next topic.
Well, I was going to say, did you have any lessons? These are all my lessons. What lessons have you learned so far?
I mean, my big lesson, lessons of things we've already talked about, right, is one, trusting myself more, right? Like I said, I do so much prep. I start super, super early. And I always end up talking myself out of things or listening too much to groupthink or playing by ADP. And then the injury thing, right? The George Kirby thing is I have to stay away from those guys. Like, just treat them like the plague. And like I said, I'm going to give you a taser next year and just let you just fucking tase the shit out of me.
This could be some good content for your YouTube page too. Yeah.
Right? We'll set up a little TikTok live stream or something of you tasing me in the middle of a $1,500 draft.
Who wouldn't tune in for that?
Yeah. So what's your next one?
All right. So the next one was, there's something that my buddy Chris Torres has brought up numerous times on Twitter, and he keeps going back to the same thing, like thinking that it's true, but it's in actuality not. So there's guys who people perceive as safe pitchers, but they're not. In actuality, they're not. Like, I've gotten so tired of seeing the narrative. Well, there's some people who say, oh, so if they don't throw hard, then they're safe. And I said, no, my number one avoid this year for pitchers was Nestor Cortez, who throws all of like 87 miles an hour or something like that. So, he had PRP last year, late in the year, and they also like brought him back way before they should have to pitch in the playoffs. So, because they were desperate and they needed him. So he was my number one avoid. So him going down was like the most obvious thing. But, a lot of people bring up Logan Gilbert as like an example of, oh, well, see, you're drafting Logan Gilbert thinking, oh, well, he's safe, right? And even he's not safe. And it's like, no, he really wasn't, though. When he upped his velo coming into last year and then again coming into this year, I was off of him. Like, he's clearly trying to, it's like what we saw when DeGrom raised his velocity going into the short season. And then he decided to keep his velocity gains for 2021. And he has not been able to stay until now. Well, maybe we'll see, but was not able to stay healthy ever since then for like 4 years. And so when Gilbert upped the velo at that point, I was out. Like, because I loved Gilbert. I had a lot of Gilbert last year. But once the velocity was up, I was out. So there's a lot of people who thought he was safer than he actually was. And then on the other side, we've got some pitchers who are perceived as risky, but in actuality, I didn't think they were. One guy being Chris Sale, who I talked about. I put out a tweet last year. Or actually, maybe it was this year, but it was about last year. It was about why I was in on him last year. Because people just see, like, they don't want to. I know it's not fun to like dive into injuries and look into what is actually behind the missed time. They just see that a guy's missed time and they're like, okay, so he's injury prone or whatever. It's like, yeah, but you have to look at what those injuries were. And I mean, I don't have the tweet on me, but if you do a search for my tag and Chris Sale, you'll find it. It's a long post, but essentially I broke down all of the individual maladies over the years for him. And a lot of them were really fluky. Like, I think he punched a wall one time.
Fell off his bike.
What was that?
He fell off his bike.
Yeah, it was a bunch of fluky shit, and it was stuff that, like, once it healed, he's fine. Like, there was nothing where, if the things that scare me are when a guy has an injury and then doesn't really treat it with anything but rest, and then, like, you just have the offseason, and then they come back the next year, and people are like, oh, so they're healthy now because they had the whole offseason to get healthy. It's like, no, it doesn't really work that way. Those are the times that I avoid people. Chris Sale, there's really nothing in his profile that scared me last year. So I was in on him. Robbie Ray, another guy who people are like, oh, Robbie Ray, you're probably out on him this year. It's like, no, I'm very in on Robbie Ray this year. He had the Tommy John surgery. I don't care that he was injured in the past. Like, he's gotten if you're hurt and you get the surgery or the treatment that you need, and then you come back, and if it's the year after the Tommy John, after coming back from Tommy John, I'm in on you. So, a lot of people thought Robbie Ray was an injury risk. I didn't. Joe Ryan was another guy people thought was an injury risk that I didn't. He had the teres major injury last year, and I looked into it, and the success rate of players coming back from that injury, once they were finally back, it takes a while, but once they came back, they were fine. So I was very in on Joe Ryan. I didn't have any issues with him, but a lot of people, they just see, oh, but he was injured last year. It's like, that doesn't mean anything though. Like, what's the injury? What's the success rate coming back from it? Did they get the proper treatment? Did they give the amount of time that they need to come back from it? If all of those things have been answered, then these guys are no longer injury risks for the next year. So, and then finally, Jacob deGrom is another guy who people are like, oh, I bet you weren't on Jacob deGrom this year. I was like, yes, I was. My issue with deGrom wasn't with his health this year because he had Tommy John and he returned to last year. So this being the year following the year he came back from Tommy John, that's when I'm in on him. The biggest thing for him was I knew he wasn't going to be the same Jacob deGrom. I knew the effectiveness wasn't going to be what it was. But I still thought he'd be good. I had him as basically like a fifth round talent. I thought in the fifth round, I'm comfortable with him as probably like my SP2 or something. But a lot of people wanted to push him up into like into like the third round. I don't remember where he landed. Do you? I think maybe fourth round, third round, fourth round.
What, DeGrom?
Yeah, in the mains.
Between third and fifth round was where I saw him go.
53. So yeah, like
fourth round.
Yeah. Now granted, I think he went earlier than that in my drafts, but I was okay with him as a fourth rounder. Like no problems. There was other guys in the fourth round that I preferred over him, but like I understood that. And fifth round would be where I had him. So he returned last year from Tommy John, and my thing was I knew that he wouldn't be able to be throwing at the same velo and try to stay healthy, but also that his stuff was going to be less than what it was before the surgery. So, and it has been, he's much more hittable. He's striking out guys a lot less, but he's still really good because he's Jacob deGrom and he's still a really, really good pitcher. Possibly the most talented starting pitcher that I've seen in my lifetime. I mean, you could compare him to some guys who earlier, like, prime Pedro and Randy Johnson maybe, but he's way the fuck up there. But his contact rates are up from like in his prime, in 2021 to 2023 is like 60%. Now he's at like 72.5% contact rate. His swinging strike rate is down from like 21.5% to 14%. Still really good though. Like still a really good player, but K per nine rate under 9 K per nine. So, still really good, but again, you just have to accept that he's going to be a lesser version of his prior self. But when we're just talking about being safe, I thought he was safe. So I'm just trying to kind of change the narrative from what people think is safe or not safe to what in reality is safe and not safe from pitchers.
I mean, so here's the thing. I don't disagree with your premise, right? I may disagree with some of the names you invoke here.
Okay, which ones?
I think coming this season, there was no reason to think there was an issue with Logan Gilbert.
Who throws as hard as that and instead stayed healthy lately?
I mean, I think that bumps him into the, every pitcher has risk category.
No,
right? Like,
you can't do that because it's not the same. Like, yes, all pitchers have some risk, but that doesn't mean that some aren't at an elevated rate from that.
And I don't disagree with you, but I don't think that just throwing hard necessarily throws you into that elevated risk category.
Who threw 97 plus last year and stayed healthy? No one.
I mean, who just stayed healthy? Maybe a guy who only throws 91 is going to stay healthy.
No, okay, stop. That's another false narrative. There's plenty of guys throwing 94, 95, 96 who are staying healthy. It's not just that I'm drafting Kyle Hendricks and whatever. That's not good. I don't know. Bring up a list. I mean, I named.
I'll bring up a list of guys who, let's see.
I don't know. I don't know if Eric's still here, but I literally just recently gave someone a whole list of guys. So if you want me to, I'll name them. It's all the guys that I drafted. I mean, it's really what it is. We just talked about a couple of them. Joe Ryan was a guy I drafted in a lot of places.
But Joe Ryan wasn't healtzy last year. So that's a bad example.
That doesn't matter. It's for this year. What are you talking about?
But and this is where I'm going to push back is I think you're pushing a narrative that isn't correct because your guy is most likely to get injured if he has recent injury history. That is just
it depends on did they get healthy? Did they get healthy? Yes, they did. Joe Ryan got healthy.
But we don't know if they get healthy. That's the thing. We don't.
If they get the procedure that they need and they come back, there's no reason to think that they're not. Okay.
There's
so
plenty of guys who have procedures and then
here's a bunch
never
of guys.
Are the same again. Look at Walker Buehler. Buehler has never been the same since his procedure.
He's had two Tommy Johns. What are you talking about? That's not on my list of safe pitchers. What are we talking about?
No, I'm just saying. I'm saying having a surgery does not mean you are going to stay healthy. Now, would I rather draft a guy like Robbie Ray?
No,
I was all over Robbie Ray.
It depends on the injury. What did I say? I said if they had the surgery that they needed and they had the proper amount of time to come back from it, then
my argument is I don't understand how you can say a guy like Logan Gilbert, who has shown that he can throw 200 innings a year coming into this season, isn't
he's never thrown at that velocity for 200 innings, though.
But he's shown over and over again that he can throw 200 innings a year. I don't know
how you're saying not at that velocity.
Joe Ryan, who's had multiple injuries, is less safe coming into the year.
The data says you can't stay healthy throwing that velocity. That's what the data says. I don't care if you don't like it or not. That's the reality.
I don't think I'd love to see where this data comes from.
Have you done the research on this that I have? If you have, please show me.
No, but I mean, Jeff Zimmerman's done a lot of research on this.
Okay, well, show me different then. If someone proves me wrong, then you can prove me wrong, and I'll change my mind in the drop of a dime. Okay, so here are my guys that I considered safe that I drafted in the first 10 rounds. Hunter Brown, Robbie Ray, Logan Webb, Christopher Sanchez, Ryan Pepio, Shota Imanaga, Bailey Ober, Joe Ryan, Tanner Bybee, and Zach Wheeler. Granted, this is Bailey Ober before the spring velocity dip that I did not. I didn't draft him after that happened.
Okay, so I don't disagree with your conclusion here. I definitely disagree a little bit, like I said, with some of your examples. But I do think what you're saying ultimately is right. I think there is a movement. I've been trying since we started talking about this. I've been trying to find the tweet from Nick Pollock. Because Nick had a tweet earlier on in the season, and maybe a month ago or so. I think it was right after the Logan Gilbert injury, where he said hey, I think
I responded to that, and I told him why he was wrong to think that Gilbert was safe.
And let me see if I can find your response, and maybe that'll make it easier.
Yeah, I don't know what you would search though. I don't remember specific words.
Well, I'll just search your guys' interactions. Okay. And hopefully that'll bring it up. That is what brought it up. Perfect. Okay. So a few reliable workhorses entering the season: Burns, Gilbert, Kirby, all on the IL. Sanchez.
And so Burns was actually on my list too. And the
Mhm.
reason for that was let me see if I can find the data. But
and I think Burns should have been on yours because there were a lot of warning signs with Burns. No, I'm saying that I'm agreeing he should have been on that list of a guy who had some red flags. And I think my argument, because Nick has made this argument repeatedly, like every pitcher's got risk, and I agree with that. I do think every pitcher got risk.
But you're that's not the point. It's every player. Every player has risk, and every pitcher especially has more risk. That does not mean you should just negate everything else and say, well, they all have risk, so I'm just going to take the most talented guy, and it is what it is. That is absolutely the wrong approach.
I'm agreeing with you here.
Okay. All right.
I think that what that does is negate the degrees of risk that come along with certain pitchers, right? Like, and like I think, for instance, Corbin Burns is a really good example. There was more risk to him than the ADP suggested. I think that people completely ignored Nestor Cortez's risk. Me included. I drafted
that was
Nestor
an obvious
Cortez.
one. Like I wouldn't.
It should have been.
Yeah,
I think for that it was the ADP was so good that
I knew he was fucked. So I didn't care if his ADP was free. I was never drafting that fucker.
But I do think that people, like when we're talking about pitchers, like there are a number of guys that people are like, like they just kind of throw the risk out the window and they go, well, all pitchers are risky. And yes, all pitchers are risky, but because if all pitchers weren't risky, we'd be drafting them in the first round all the time. You'd be seeing as many pitchers go in the first round as hitters if they had the same risk as hitters. Of course, they're more risky. This is why we draft them later.
They do. Some people still do draft pitchers in the first.
No, but we're not seeing 8 pitchers or 7 pitchers go in the first.
How many pitchers do you think are worth, like, who are even talented enough to be going that high, though? Especially considering
if you could turn off injuries.
Yeah. If
you could book 200 innings for every pitcher, if we were saying like we're going to use Steamer 600, for pitchers, I think you're taking,
who else?
6 or 7 pitchers in the first.
But I mean, like coming into the year, not like knowing how they're pitching now, right? So like,
I think you're taking 6 or 7 pitchers in the first round.
Okay, so Skeens, Skubal, who else? I mean, Wheeler wasn't an injury risk, and he was really not going in the first round.
But if you could guarantee people that Wheeler, Crochet,
I don't think that's
Gilbert.
I don't think Wheeler wasn't going in the first because people were afraid he would get hurt. I don't think that was the reason.
I think it's because they devalue pitching because pitchers get hurt, and he's 35 or 36.
Well, okay, so maybe the age, but Skeens and Skubal are the only two really that stay. I mean, you just said Gilbert was a reliable workhorse or whatever, so people weren't concerned about injury with him. The only other guy I can think of is Garrett Crochet, and he went in the first plenty. So I don't really think that's stopping anybody from taking guys in the first.
No, I think if we took out injury risk,
Glasnow, maybe Glasnow and DeGrom. Those are the only other two I can think of.
I think Glasnow and DeGrom for sure.
I don't think there's anybody else that anyone's getting pushed into the first round.
I think you might. I think some people might have pushed Yamamoto in there.
Glasnow
for sure.
Nobody was worried about injury with Yamamoto. I don't think.
He missed most of the season last year with injury. The only reason he's going in the 4th round last year is because of the injury.
First round, regardless. I don't think anyone was thinking, okay, this is a first round talent. No, think about what you're saying. First round. We're not talking about first 3 rounds here. Round.
I don't think you're getting you're getting your head enough into what I'm saying in this scenario.
No, I am. But so what hitters are not going in the first round? You got Ohtani, Witt, Judge, Ellie, Jose Ramirez, Soto, Gunnar Henderson, Kyle Tucker, Corbin Carroll, Fernando Tatis.
Okay. Let me phrase it to you this way, okay?
Okay.
Or let me ask you a question to kind of get my point across. Why do you tend to go hitter or hitter in the first 3
rounds? Mostly because Two big reasons. First of all, yes, the injury risk is a big part of it. Now, I took Zach Wheeler in the second round this year.
But I'm saying, generally speaking, you
Yeah.
go hitter heavy early on because you
Because I
want
think
your
the
highest
value-
high investment players to have less injury risk. So I'm saying, if
That's
pitchers
part
had
of
no
it. That's part of it. But it's also that I think that there's a big difference in the hitters that I can get in the first, like, 15 hitters compared to the next, 100 hitters.
Sure, but that changes year to year.
And
I'm
it's-
saying the
and
game
it's
of fantasy
also-
would be different if you could just take injury risk out. Like,
Yeah, but
if we were playing a video game, and you could turn the injuries off.
Yeah, I
understand
understand turning injuries off. I there's no lack of understanding here. I get exactly what you're saying. I just think that you've got a lot of hitters that contribute in 5 categories. Even the best starting pitchers only contribute in 4 categories. You still need them because you still need pitching. Like, pitching's still half of the game, but I think that there's a lot of opportunity to get pitchers later that will vault up in value that I don't think you can get with hitters later. Like, where I'm taking guys.
Part of that vaulting up in value is other players being erased from the board, right? Like,
say it again. What do you mean?
Part of that jump in value, the guy that was the 50th starter becoming the 22nd starter is a skill jump, right? Absolutely. Mm-hmm. But it's also 15 pitchers being erased from the board because of injury. See what I mean? So if you don't have those 15, you don't.
No. I mean, I don't understand what you mean. Go ahead. Continue.
So, like, if we're taking injury completely out, injuries don't happen.
Yeah.
15 pitchers aren't getting Tommy John this year. And that pitcher who was the 50th isn't jumping that high, right? Okay. The reason why you can make that jump, reason why you get those pitchers later that jump up, in part, it is skills growth a lot of the times, but it's also you're erasing a lot of the board. Like, if we look at the ADP and we cross out, we read out all those names that get injured throughout the year, you're losing 15 pitchers out of the top 50. Right? So that helps. So, like, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
like, the reason why pitchers go later is largely due to the injury risk in pitchers.
But some of these guys like Bubic, they're going to probably end up being better than a lot of those guys that got erased, that went ahead of them. So I mean, that's part of it, but it's more that I think if you know what to look for in starters, the right skill sets, I just think it's a better value proposition later in the draft in those, like, 15 to 25 rounds, where those are the guys that you want to be taking there, and you want to get your hitters earlier. Because there's not as many hitters that you see taking that big jump. Like, there are some, but not as many. Like, you could talk about, Brenton Doyle last year, even like Larry Butler, but he didn't come on until the second half of the year. Like, he was. Did he even start with the team? I think he started in the minors, didn't he? Yeah. So I don't think this really counts. But yeah, I think that it's much easier to hit on those starters later than it is to hit on hitters. And if you don't get that volume in hitting, it's really tough to make up. Like, you don't want a team full of platoon guys. Like, as much as you love Carpenter, you don't want a bunch of guys who are only playing versus righties or part-time or whatever. You need to get that volume in hitting to succeed.
Oh, no, I mean, I agree with you.
That's what I'm looking for early.
Yeah, and I completely agree with you. And I don't disagree with your premise there. For me, like, it comes back to, like, I do think, like, there are certain, I think it comes down to, like, I think there are certain guys who, once they show that they can throw a certain amount of innings, like, I trust them, right? Like, yeah, I disagree that the velocity is as big of an issue, as maybe you think it is.
That's what the data says. It's not me saying it. It's what the data says. I've looked into this and found that for whatever reason, 96.2 miles an hour, there's a jump from 96.2 up to 97. And then once you get to 97, there's an even bigger jump. So for me, those are added layers of risk. Throw over that velocity, and then over the next velocity, you're taking. So for me, Logan Gilbert was 2 clicks up, and I trusted the research over people like you who'd say, well, that doesn't matter. Throwing hard doesn't mean anything, and blah, blah, blah. He's been a workhorse so far, blah, blah, blah. I decided to trust the data, and sure enough, Logan Gilbert got hurt. Now, granted, he's back now. We'll see how that goes, but he still missed time. Meanwhile, Wheeler is rolling for me because, honestly, based on just skills, if I knew that Gilbert was going to give me 200 innings, I might have taken him over Wheeler. Like, if it was purely the risk factor that made me take Wheeler over Gilbert.
All right. Let's is there anything else you want to talk about in this section, or should we move on to the Earth section?
Yeah, we can move on.
Okay, I think we have to discuss first and foremost. We have to issue an apology to the Surf League, right?
Yeah. We didn't do a good job of covering. We kind of talked about our own stuff.
We talked shit to each other, but we did not actually cover like the Earth leagues.
Right.
So let's first give Surf their due. Surf has been doing really, really well.
And for those of you who aren't familiar with the Earth League, Surf is CERF, and it stands for Canadian A Roto Fantasy. So want to give them a shout out. They are
a great name, by the way. I love that name.
It's a top 2 name. It's between that and Waffle House area.
Well, Waffle House area is clearly the best name. Like that to me.
I don't know. They're both really fucking good. They're both those are the top 2 names. There's no doubt about it. So
but they're currently in first and have been in first for the better part of a month.
Yeah. As of right now, they're dominating. So
yes, they are absolutely dominating. Their lead only, I think, got a little bit bigger this last week. So shout out to them.
It looks like everybody else behind them all declined.
Yes, pretty much. Yeah.
You've got Worf. Do my eyes deceive me? Is that Worf climbing for like several weeks in a row?
Maybe.
Since April, have they been on
looks like it.
Straight shot up? Wow, I'm impressed because Worf has historically been the worst league by a good amount, and I hope.
Well, we did get a text message from a member of Worf who we talked shit on, our good friend Sam.
Oh. Well, rightfully talked shit on him though. He acknowledged that he has fucked up.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So let's give a shout out to some of the people who are currently leading in the overall too. No, no surprise here. Bob Kramantola leading the overall currently. He's a member of SLARF, which is the St. Louis League. Dan Thompson of Wharf.
Dan's been up there. He's been in the top 3 or so for a while this year. So he's Red Fox Roto on Twitter.
Yeah, great follow on Twitter for sure. Yep. Our good friend Lucas Bieri of your Glarf League in third currently. Then we've got Rudy Gamble. Luke. Huh?
I said you skipped Rudy.
No, Rudy's 4.
The one I'm looking at is Rudy's 3 and Lucas is 4.
I'm looking currently at the standings as of right now.
Okay. Well, you've got the graphic up. I thought you were looking at the graphic.
Well, I'm trying to update things as we go. So
right.
Rudy Gamble in 4th. He dropped a little bit and Lucas jumped up. So
gotta give a shout out to these two. Rudy Gamble is consistently he's been in the top 10 several times over the last since Earth has started. I feel like he's always in the top 10, it feels like. Rudy is a great player. Lucas is my boy. He's in Glarf. He is a huge reason that we're on the upswing that we're on right now. Mm-hmm. One of the nicest guys you'll ever meet. And
super nice.
And a really good fantasy player, too. He really knows his shit. And it's really cool to see him and Bob Osgood both up there because Bob is also a exceptionally nice dude. And he was also in first earlier this year, too. And I gave him a shout out on Twitter and was really happy for him. But him and Lucas are also good friends, so it's cool to see both of them up there.
Yeah. Then we currently in 6th overall we have Seth Wolfmeyer from Slarth. I don't know Seth. I also don't know Adam Warner, Colin Davidson, who are a 7-8 from Darf and Tarf. And then I can't remember who's Vaudeman Empire.
I don't know who it is, but I know the name.
Oh, I should know because I have access to the Wharf League. So I'm gonna go look. Of course,
you still, what are you, a co-manager? You still have access?
Yeah. I haven't touched the team or anything like that, but I do.
God. There's some shenanigans going on.
I don't. Can they remove me as a co-manager? Because I would love to get that off of my live story.
Yeah, I think if you reach out to Jeff, he can take care of it.
Okay. Yeah, I need to do that because I'd love to get it off my. Like I haven't like
you have even your leagues, yeah.
Yeah, I there's nothing worse than like seeing like all of my teams like have a shitty day except for that team. I'm like, that's not even my team.
That's great.
So yeah, I'll have to reach out to Jeff. And then so I don't know who Vaudeman Empire is. And then actually, but no, his name is actually Vaudeman Empire. It's as the owner.
Yeah, I hate that they're able to do that. Like I want his actual name on there, but I don't know what his actual name is.
I wonder if he's on Twitter. Maybe that's
he is. Well, he is, but if it's who I'm thinking of, I don't know if it's him or someone else that blocked like everybody. Maybe he was the guy who told me that some other dude in Wharf blocked everybody because I was trying to give someone a shout out one time and I couldn't because he had everybody blocked.
Okay, let's see. Vaudeman Empire. Oh. I don't know. Yeah.
I can't find him now. At one point, he was on Twitter. I don't know if he's still.
It doesn't look like he is, or at least he's under a different name if he is. So,
or he has us blocked because I think he blocks everybody.
Feel free to reach out to me and ask and let me know what your name is so we can give you a shout out. And then we got Richard Sands.
Richard Sands, friend of the podcast, great dude.
Yep. So Barf, he's actually crushing it in Barf right now.
Yeah.
He's well ahead of the pack.
Have you met Richard in person, by the way? Because I think he had to draft remotely, right?
He had to draft remotely. We're hoping one of these years he's gonna be able to come out, but he's.
So you've never met him in person, then?
No, I just talked to him, via the internet and phone and stuff like that. But super nice dude. We love Richard.
Love Richard.
And and then like some other interesting names. Patrick Davitt at 11, Ryan Ireland at 12, Jason Anthony at 13, Rich Zito at 14, Ryan Bloomfield at 16, Eric Halterman, who was just in the chat here. We should get Eric on since he's up this fucking late.
Yeah, I know. Well, his whole job is just fucking fancy baseball, so he's always got time for this shit.
Yeah, so Eric, we'll have to arrange with you to come on the pod since you're always here anyway. So
yes,
so that's where we're at with the Earth Leagues. And
Eric can correct us in real time then.
So do you want to talk shit now that we got that all out of the way? Glarf is making a comeback here.
Yeah. I mean, no, I'm not going to talk shit about it because, it's super embarrassing. I mean, look, we're on the comeback. We're still in second last as of right now. Like we haven't actually made any. Like we're on the come up, but we're still behind where we were, in April. So until we've passed this whole pack, I mean, because right now. Surf's way the fucking first. Then there's shit. How many leagues are there again? Shit. I should know this. 13.
Too many.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 9.
Yeah.
11 leagues. Okay. So there's Surfing first. Then 9 of us are basically in a big cluster right now, and then Wharf is at the bottom. So, Wharf's league name is not matching their production right now, but Wharf needs to pick it up. It's very close between everybody other than Surf, though. But if Glarf does what Glarf does and Surf slows down a bit, this will be interesting a month from now. So I'm really excited to see if by the All-Star break where we're all at. So I think we'll be ahead of Barf by then. I don't know if we'll be ahead of Surf, but hopefully it's at least the ball game at that point.
I mean, Barf doesn't really have like any teams that are bottom feeders in the overall standings. So I feel
you guys always choke, and you're the
yeah,
commissioner.
that's fair. Yeah, you know I'm not going to do the work. Our lowest ranked person right now is Brian Vogel. At 120
Vogel
is 126 out of 165. So like even Surf has a bunch of people below him. Like so, like I actually feel pretty good about where we're at as a league right now.
I mean, if look, I as much as I love winning, if Earth is being taken to another level right now where people are all staying active and this is becoming even more competitive, I am so down for that. Like that's the dream. That's what I want. I want us to win every year, but at the same time I don't. You know what I'm saying? Like I don't want this to just be Glarf helping all of the Midwest charities. Like I want to see other leagues win sometimes. You know, I don't want to, but I want to. I think you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
You know, Earth is my baby. You know, I can't just be in it for Glarf. I want all of Earth to be represented in this.
Can we talk real quick about your team?
Sure.
What is going on with your hitting right now? Because
it's a good question. Because earlier in the season, my hitting was phenomenal and my pitching was bad. And so I told you before, I've never had a time where I have 5 premium middle infielders and every one of them is on the IL simultaneously. They're all back now, and Westberg is hitting really well right now. But you know, Corey Seager has not woken up yet. That's a big part of it. Xavier Edwards is kind of like he's not running nearly at the same rate that he was last year. So he has 11 steals and 215 at bats this year. Last year he had 32 steals and 500 at bats. So he's not quite on the same pace. And then I've got Christian Campbell. He's a young guy. He's going through the ups and the downs. So Tommy Edman homered yesterday. I think he's like Tommy Edman started off hitting tanks constantly.
He's been terrible recently.
He's been horrible, dude. Like he's just flat out sucked lately. I
got a lot of questions about him today, and I was all like, I mean, you want to keep a piece of the Dodgers lineup, but it's not been great.
Yeah, I mean, like you can't drop him, but at the same time, it's like I don't know what to do. So I don't know. I mean, I've got Paul Goldschmidt and Ben Rice, which that might be difficult right now with the playing time crunch there. I picked up Luke Raley. He should be back next week. Jackson Merrill, that's another big thing. He has been a big disappointment. And now he's
can't stay healthy. Yeah.
He can't stay healthy, but also like 5 homers, 1 steal. I mean, he's hitting 304, like the average is there, but the power and the speed are not. It's not
part of the reason is he only has 186 plate appearances. Like he just, you add another 100 plate appearances, and I mean, yes, he's definitely been disappointing for a 2nd round pick or or 3rd round pick, wherever you got him. But like not nearly this disappointing.
And also Fernando Tatis, he's really picked it up lately. In like starting in June. But I mean, he also hasn't homered since May 27th. He was on fire, and then he just, I don't know. He got, it was after he got hit by that pitch. I remember he got hit in the arm, I think. And honestly, like all of these things all happened all at the same time. All those guys went on the IL. Fernando Tatis went cold. So all of this happened at the same time for my offense, and just, you can't replace an entire offense. Like I have no money. So, I've got
that's a problem.
Yeah. I've got like $200. So, I'm spending cautiously at this point, but, I made a mistake with Cam Smith. I went big on him early in the season, and then I dropped him, and then kind of went big on picking him back up again. And when he hit like 2 home runs and stole a base in the same week, and then he really didn't do much since then. Like he doesn't look overmatched, but he's striking out at a 35% clip lately, and he's not hitting any home runs, and he's not running. So and he's hitting like at the end of the lineup. So there's just been too many things that have gone wrong with this team, but overall, it's not bad players. They just chose the same time to kind of all go cold. I do think that this offense will recover, and I'll still finish ahead of you. So that's really the main thing that matters.
I mean, I'm feeling pretty good about my chances for at least my offense to be better than yours.
All right, well, tell me about your offense then. What are you feeling good about?
I mean, I just have a huge head start on you in every offensive category. It's just, I mean, that's what it comes down to. This is
okay.
The question is, will my pitching be good enough? Because my pitching was already my weak spot on this team, and I've lost so many guys already. So I have like the opposite problem of you, which is like I have, this is a team where I drafted Max Meyer and I drafted Pablo Lopez. So, having dropped both of those guys.
Yeah.
Bailey Ober was my SP2.
I also have Bailey Ober. So yeah, we're in the same boat there.
Zach Eflin just got blown the fuck up today, so that hurt.
He did.
So then I also didn't draft a lot of closers on the team, though. Clase has seemingly been fine, and Aroldis Chapman is been fine.
I drafted 3 closers, and I still have 3 closers. I drafted Clase, Finnegan, and Aroldis Chapman, and I've had them all year.
Well, that's I drafted Clase and Aroldis Chapman and Kyle Hendricks. I pretty much just drafted the Boston bullpen, and
Chapman got the save today, baby. Let's go.
I'll take that, right? I do worry about like, will my pitching be good enough? Am I going to be able to?
Did you play Ober in Great American this week?
Did I play Ober? Let me go look.
Because I sat him, so this could be interesting if you played him.
I bet you I did. Actually,
I bet you did too.
I'm almost positive I did. I did play him. So
okay.
It came down to Bailey Ober in Great American Ballpark or Jeffrey Springs in Sacramento.
But isn't it versus Cleveland?
Yeah, but it's still in Sacramento where he's been god awful this year.
Okay. I don't know, man. Cleveland versus lefties. Oh, I think I would have. Well, we'll see. I think I would have gone Springs, but I do understand your hesitation.
Yeah. I think my other option. I'm trying to bring up the probables to see. I guess I could just bring up my lineup. That might make it a little bit easier. My other option was Eduardo Rodriguez at Toronto, which I was not.
Oh no, fuck no.
So now the way Toronto's been hitting. And then I also had Brian Bayo at San Francisco.
After Bayo started throwing cutters a lot more in his last outing, I think he's really interesting now. So
the only problem is I need wins, and so I didn't know if he was going to go deep enough into the game, and the whole it's a stupid thing, but like Devers getting to be up against his former team, like I'm waiting for like a massive Devers weekend here. So
yeah, it could be. And I mean,
if I wasn't going camping, I would be at that series.
Yeah, that would be a fun one to be at.
Yeah. So, but yeah, no, we'll see. I'm going to be holding my breath for sure. I definitely struggled on who to start this week with that last spot.
Well, I hope whoever you picked is the exact wrong players to pick.
I'm sure. I look at my team and I go, "Oh my god, this is going to end poorly." So at least on the pitching side, but my hitting side, I feel pretty good about my hitters. This is a team where I've got Jacob Wilson, I've got Maikel Garcia, Kyle Schwarber's been unreal good this season.
Yep.
22 home runs already, hitting 247. Trey Turner's seemingly back to being kind of the guy that we expect him to be.
We were big on Trey this year. He was a great value pick for sure. I didn't get him anywhere, but
Max Muncy since getting glasses has been fantastic.
I mean, who knew that you need to see the ball to hit it? That's crazy. I know,
right? Yeah. Jake Mangum has been a really good pickup for me.
I picked up Mangum in Glarf too. The one thing about Glarf that sucks is it's hyper competitive. Every fucking fab is so competitive, and everybody needs steals. Someone in our league, I don't know who, has to be hoarding the shit out of steals because anytime anyone like I said, IKF went for like $30, and I was like, what the fuck? Like, you can't get guys in Glarf if they steal bases. So when I was able to get Mangum for like $18 or whatever I overpaid for him, I mean, honestly, he's been well worth it. So I'm just hoping he keeps running.
Let me see. I'm trying to see who. I guess I could just sort it by your league, and figure out who in Glarf is taking all your stolen bases. Let's. Okay, yeah, we're to Glarf. Stolen bases is which?
Well, Adam Howe is winning in steals somehow. Let's see.
Yeah. So I don't know who Adam Howe has.
Well, okay, so
you've got 3 teams. Well, 3 teams over 100 stolen bases already, and then one team with 91. So that is part of your issue. Is there are 4 teams at the top, kind of taking a lot of the stolen bases that are available.
Oh boy, I'm just noticing he probably didn't do fab last week because he's got Shaling Aliers in his starting catcher spot. He's playing Drew Waters and Sam Haggerty. Oh boy.
Yeah, well, there you go. There's part of your issue why you're not ahead of Barf yet.
God damn it, dude. It's always Adam. It's always fucking Adam. Come on, man. He's holding Burns and McClanahan. Like, dude, come on. All right. Well, there's a conversation I have to have tomorrow. Wonderful.
Well, then on that note, why don't we wrap things up?
Yeah.
Want to remind everybody where you reach on social media, plug anything you got going on.
Yeah, we're just going to keep saying that. Okay, so you can find me on Twitter at RunDMCD. Make sure you add that D.
And you can follow me on social media, Justin Mason, FWFB. Email me or the show, justinmasonfantasy@gmail.com. You can catch me writing multiple times a week at both Fangraphs and Fantasy Pros, which I'm about to go write 2 articles tonight. So I'll be up way too late. And then you can hear me on this podcast and the Sleeper in the Bus podcast. That will wrap us up for this episode. For Dave and myself, thank you for listening. Have a fantastic baseball season.